In order to have a deeper insight into Amnesty's report, we will speak now with the organisation's director in Europe, Gauri van Gulik. Hello, Mrs. van Gulik, and thanks for being with us.
Hello.
So what are the main findings of Amnesty's annual report, looking specifically at the situation in Catalonia?
So Amnesty International has done research into several things around the events of September, October, and since then in Catalonia and in Spain more generally. And our findings are basically three points. One is excessive use of force by the police in Catalonia in October. That's really important, and something that really stuck with me personally was this story also of a woman who was hit in the face by national police while she was simply waiting peacefully, and another story of a person who lost sight in their right eye because of use of rubber bullets. So we have documented some very serious incidents of excessive use of force in the course of that period, early October. That's one. The second issue that we are looking into is broadly all the fair trial problems. So learning while these trials go on, both of community leaders as well as politicians, what are the crimes that they're alleged to have committed? What are the actual accusations, and how are courts applying fair trial standards in those cases? So we're looking into that very thoroughly. And as I said, many categories of cases, so both against police officers, against, of course, the political leaders, against the civil society leaders. And really what is most extreme in our view is this excessive and disproportionate pre-trial detention, in particular of the Geordies, because there is no justification for it. And just 2 weeks ago, there was a renewed continuation of that detention. So this is something we're continuing to follow. And as things come up, we will continue to document it as we can. And finally, the third category is really specific to the Geordies, which is really a broad attack on freedom of expression in Spain. And that is something that we're looking into in a much wider sense. So the use of certain laws in Spain to curb freedom of expression in the context of counterterrorism work. This goes well beyond the situation in Catalonia. So we are very interested in documenting this also outside that region and more in general, how Spain is curbing this very fundamental right. And that is also part of a larger trend in Europe.
The report states that the imprisonment of Jordi Sanchez and Jordi Cuixart is disproportionate, but Amnesty does not consider them to be political prisoners. Why is that?
Well, this is a bit of a tricky categorization because, Amnesty International bases itself on international human rights law, and political prisoners, of course, have a literal meaning, as in prisoners in the context of a political situation. But it's also often used in the media as sort of a term that means more than that. And we don't use it in that sense. So we can't use it here for many reasons. I think that it's quite clear that these are people who are imprisoned in the context of a political conflict, right? And so we've talked about this a lot. So it's clear that this is excessive in this case. We haven't found justifications, as far as we can see, for this kind of pretrial detention. And we also flagged, and this is important, that overall this use of pretrial detention, so just keeping people locked up without really clear grounds or reasons or justifications for it, is much more dangerous also in a broader sense. It's not just about these individuals. It sends a very scary message that, while you think you may have a right to protest, you may have a right to peacefully organize, the state tells you something different. And that's what makes especially the civil society leaders so vulnerable, because that sends a chilling message. And it's very dangerous for civil society and the health of civil society more broadly in Spain. So that is for us really an important priority, to make sure that those people who have a right to fully peacefully protest, to organize, and to do it in a way, of course, that doesn't harm others, that they should be able to do so, and that they're not punished excessively in the course of their actions. So that's a very large concern for us, and we were very outspoken about this issue before.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.